What's up, my friends? My name is Keelan Morrissey, and last night I had the honor of watching a little film called Zack Snyder's Justice League. Let's talk about it. Alright, so first things first, if you know me, you know that I have been a passionate supporter of the Release the Snyder Cut movement for a very long time, pretty much since 2017 when this whole journey really started. I have been making videos in support of the Snyder Cut. I dropped a video the day that the Snyder Cut was announced. I've been doing videos leading up to the release of this movie. It means a lot to me as a DC fan, as a filmmaker and an artist, as someone who really supports Zack Snyder and his work and just him as a person. This movie has meant a lot to me. And more recently, I did a documentary on the story of this film, and that documentary got way more attention than really anything else I've ever made on my channel. I mean, literally, my average film or video or whatever gets between 20 and 100 views. And this one has 20,000 views, which is insane for me. This is unprecedented. And I'm so grateful to everybody, who is in the Snyder Cut community or even other people who just stumbled upon the video and watched it and enjoyed it. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for subscribing. I really hope you stick around and check out all the other films and original content I have. But really, it just means a lot that everybody has discovered this video of mine and discovered my work, and that the Snyder Cut has, drawn people, like-minded people, to my page to, have these awesome conversations with. So before we get into the review, I just wanted to say all that. But now let's talk about this movie. I got the privilege of watching it last night, thanks to my friend Karan, aka the Nice Cast. I mention him all the time because he's an awesome artist and creator. And he got my name on the guest list by talking to Zack Snyder personally, so I was able to watch the premiere. And so without further ado, let's talk about this movie. All right, so the actual story of Zack Snyder's Justice League. By the way, I am not going to be giving any spoilers in this review. If you saw the title or the thumbnail, I imagine I said no spoilers. This will be completely spoiler-free, but if you want to go into the movie completely blindly and not have any expectations or reservations, then I recommend you don't look at any reviews. But anyways, the story. I thought that the story was, fantastic. I thought the story was really, really good. No surprise there. I mean, we kind of already knew what the story was. We knew the basic premise, right? I mean, Bruce Wayne and Diana Prince unite the team of metahumans to fight Steppenwolf, and ultimately Darkseid. I mean, not necessarily fight Darkseid, but fight his forces, the parademons, the apocalyptic threat that has, made itself known on Earth. So we sort of knew that was the thing. Oh, all the while they need to resurrect Superman. We know that as well. I mean, so the story itself, it's the same premise as the 2017 film, and it's the same premise to a degree as a lot of the Justice League animated films and origin comics, where they have to unite the team for a common goal. So I don't think anybody's really expecting the story to be anything different than that. That is what the story is. But aside from just the plot, because story is much more than plot, I mean, this is a very, very, very good story. Zack Snyder is a meticulous and very visionary storyteller who crafts his stories with a tremendous amount of care. Even if you don't like what he did with Man of Steel or Batman v Superman, even if you are not a fan of those particular renditions of these beloved characters, I think you can still admit that this man has this sort of mythological view of these characters. He sees them as modern day gods, because that's really what DC is these gods among men, right? And so this film does a fantastic job of exploring these mythological beings that live among us. And Man of Steel and BVS did that, in my opinion. I'm hoping that people acknowledge it even more with this movie, because now it's not just one or two characters, now it's six. Now we see actually different gods from different realms of our world coming together. We have a Kryptonian, we have a human, we have a cyborg, we have an Amazon, we have an Atlantean, we have another human who can tap into the godlike power that is the Speed Force. I mean, these people can do so much, and the limits of their powers are really shown in this film, like, or the limitlessness of their powers, I should say. Exactly how much they're capable of when they really push themselves to the limit. I mean, especially Cyborg in particular. I will get into characters, like each particular character I'll talk about in a little bit, but Cyborg, just the pure range of his powers and how much he's really capable of is demonstrated in a very, very cool way. That, most people probably wouldn't have even thought about. Like, most people are probably like, oh, he's a cyborg, he can alter his body, but it's just so much more than that. And the way that it's explained is that he is, this is probably the most powerful version of cyborg we've ever seen. Okay, so aside from the mythological aspect of this story, it also just felt very consistent, very cohesive, tied together in many ways. It wove together, the story arcs of six heroes, and it did so seamlessly. Like, it really made it work, And I mean, there have been many other superhero team-up movies. There's been Avengers. There's been even Zack Snyder has done Watchmen. I mean, there's been the X-Men. But this one, it didn't feel like each hero was going on the same journey of uniting. It felt like each hero had their own journey to go on, and they all happened to coincide. And I thought that was kind of cool because, some in some of the superhero team-up movies, it's more like everybody's kind of doing their own thing, but then they all come together, and then, that's it. But each character was actually developed very thoroughly throughout the film in their own storylines that all these different roads kind of came together. So that was really, really cool. Yeah. So in terms of the story, it was tonally consistent. It was, it was emotional, of course. Yeah. So as for the emotion in this film, it was terrific. You really felt for these characters. Even scenes in the 2017 cut that were kind of just overlaid with, basic music, or framed by jokes, or put in a context that wasn't very emotional. Now, in the context that it was originally intended, those scenes become emotional, right? So there's a lot of emotion from scenes that I didn't expect to bring me any emotion, right? Like Bruce Wayne talking to Arthur Curry in the beginning, which is not a spoiler. We all knew that was in there. Like, I didn't expect any emotion to really come from that. I just kind of thought, okay, that's, he goes to him, asks for help, that's it. But there is emotion. There's, and I won't spoil it, but there's some real oomph to that scene, and many other scenes. Like and then I'm really just talking about scenes in the first act here, like Wonder Woman, saving the people from the terrorists in that one building. That was also in the 2017 cut. In that movie, it was just like action. It was just Wonder Woman stopping bad guys. In this movie, like, there's so much more to it. There's just an emotional essence to every scene. Like, there's no scenes really that are just purely action or just purely humor, except for, of course, the main battle scenes are like, there's like 3 or 4 huge battle scenes that are just pure epicness. But every scene has some emotional drive to it. Even the battle scenes are interspersed with dialogue that's emotional. So, yeah, it's an emotional movie. It connects to the previous 2 films. It fits into this world. What else? It's just a good story. Very, very, very good story. Visually, come on, man. Zack Snyder. Who are we talking about here? I mean, even people who dislike Zack Snyder's stories very much enjoy Zack Snyder's visuals, and that's a fact. Like, I mean, people praised the visuals in BVS. Like, cinematography was incredible. And that, I feel like even the people who said the story was terrible strongly disagree with you. But those people still admitted, okay, the visuals, the effects are great. So this movie is no exception to that. One thing that I don't know quite what I expected with this, but you know, it is a different cinematographer. He's not working with Larry Fong on this one, who he worked with on Man of Steel and BVS. He's working with a new cinematographer, so there is sort of a new visual feel to this, but it's also consistent. It's new, but it's consistent at the same time. It's very hard to explain. Like it fits into the aesthetic of Zack Snyder's films without a doubt. But of course, you have the fact that it's wide, or it's more boxy rather than widescreen. You have a new aspect ratio. You also have less shaky camera movements and more fluidly moving camera movements. You know, there were a few aspects of Man of Steel and BVS cinematography that I really liked that weren't to be found in this movie, like the zooms in, like the zooming in, the zoom ins. What am I saying? When the camera would sort of zoom in on somebody far away, like Superman flying or like a plane going by, and it would zoom in real intensely and then focus. That plus the shaky camera movements on certain close-up shots, like there wasn't quite as much of that. So yeah, you didn't quite get as much of the like, I don't know. There's a certain point of view that you get when you have those camera shots that wasn't in this movie. But I mean, that's not much of a complaint because they made up for that in other ways. They did lots of new things with the cinematography that, you know, I really appreciated. They included lots of new kinds of shots, lots of very symmetrical shots, lots of very bold movement shots. And I think sort of in place of those scenes or those shots in his past two movies where they would have sort of established the environment a little more, they just did more small, heartfelt character interactions, right? Like, to allow the movie to breathe so that it's not always something huge or emotional or action-packed, you know, to sort of let the movie breathe a little bit and just feel like there's not always massive stuff happening. This is just a world that exists that we live in. They did have just little tender moments, like a moment between Wonder Woman and Alfred, like just little things. And there was also lots of environment, like wide environment shots, rather than the close-ups on like the plants or the, you know, a newspaper going by in the street or that sort of thing. Like there were these big wide shots showing, okay, this is where we are. We're in the Arctic, or we're in Metropolis, or we're in Steppenwolf's terraformed dome, like just showing where they are from several angles. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, visually, I mean, the animation is incredible. I was concerned that because of the short amount of time that it took them to produce this movie, they were really put on a time crunch, the VFX people. I was concerned that maybe like some of the character animation, like Darkseid or Desaad, would not be fully polished, but man, it was polished. It looked crisp. I mean, it looked so good. It really looked so good. All the animation looked great. Cyborg's animation looked fantastic. Sorry, that's my dishwasher. A lot of people, I think, were concerned about Cyborg not looking good. I don't know why. I've always thought Cyborg looks fine, and he looked great in this movie. This movie is more colorful than the last two. It does have a lot of vibrant colors, but still, once again, consistent. Like, it's not like all of a sudden it's just super bright and merry. Like, the color makes sense in the context. And so that's what's important, right? Like the last movie kind of they just lightened up all the tones, and they got rid of all of Zack Snyder's signature things, like those sort of those particles that float in the air during scenes, whether it's snow or fire or wherever they are. He always sort of likes to add this ambiance to the environment that was sort of absent in 2017, but it's back now. So even scenes that looked all peppy in 2017, they look dark and Snydery now, which is how we like it. All right, let's talk characters. I'll go Superman first. Epic, of course. There was not quite as much of him as I thought there would be. The only scenes that featured Superman were scenes that I already knew would be in the movie, thanks to the theatrical cut and thanks to Zach's Vero posts. And also that one deleted scene that was on the 2017 Blu-ray. Like, everything with Superman, we sort of knew was going to be in it. Or even some of the scenes were in the trailers. Like, there wasn't much extra stuff with Superman. But that's okay. I mean, he's obviously like a very integral part of this universe, but this wasn't a Superman movie, BVS and Man of Steel were Superman movies. This wasn't one. So he was more so this symbolic thing that sort of existed throughout the film rather than a character that was developed additionally. All of his development came towards the end of the movie. But nonetheless, Superman's awesome. He was done very well. The black suit, incredible. And I mean, yeah, it was Zack Snyder Superman. There's no doubt about that. And there was some emotional stuff with him that actually I didn't expect in some of those scenes that we knew were there. There was more layers to those scenes that I didn't know would be there that made it, it did give him some good emotion. Wonder Woman? Woo! Wonder Woman was a show stealer, man. I feel like she might have been the most featured character or, had the most screen time. I think that's very possible. Either her or Batman. Because also I think maybe just the fact that the Themyscirans had a lot of it, the Themyscirans. Do people say that? The Amazons in Themyscira. They had a pretty prominent role. And they were talking about her and she was talking about them. And so her realm of this world was pretty developed. And so, she appeared a lot. Her score, her music, theme music by Junkie XL, Tom Hulkenberg. Oh my God. So good. It's sort of this upgraded theme that happens whenever she's on screen. And I love it. It's really, really good. They still used a variance of the one done for BVS and Wonder Woman. But trust me, there's a new twist on it that's nice. She was great. She was brutal. She was fierce. She was everything that Wonder Woman in Batman v Superman was. When she was fighting Doomsday and was an absolute beast, she was that again. So that's awesome. All right, let's talk Batman. Batman had sort of a new character arc. He wasn't as explored in this movie because the last movie gave him so much time to be explored as a character, like to, talk about his tragic past, all that good stuff. In this one, he was much more hopeful. And I think that's because of Superman. And in 2017, theatrical cut, I sort of thought, okay, they're just making Batman comic relief, which is not what Batman's supposed to be. He's not supposed to have jokes in every scene. That's just not right. He's not Tony Stark. He's not like making quips while he's in his superhero suit. Like, no. And it was just so inconsistent with BVS that was very problematic to me. In this one, none of the jokes, none of the pointless humor, but he is more hopeful. He is more optimistic. He mentions at several points in the film having faith. And to me, that is a direct product of Superman's influence on him and seeing Superman's sacrifice. I mean, like, that's cool. Like, seeing Batman, or really Bruce Wayne, seeing his spirits lifted and seeing his faith in humanity restored. I think that phrase is sort of used in the synopsis for this film. Seeing that happen while him still remaining an epic, brutal, dark Batman was cool. Like, that's the character journey I wanted for Bruce, and it paid off. It was great. I was happy for him. Like, because Zack Snyder does such a great job of making these characters feel like people. In 2016, in BVS, like, I felt like I knew Bruce. I felt like I could feel his pain. And so, like, seeing him in this light, it's almost like watching a friend, like, recover from something dark that they went through. And that's really cool. Like, yeah, I was happy for him. As for Aquaman, he was cool. He was epic. He was Jason, you know? He was definitely the Aquaman that Zack Snyder wanted to create. He had great action sequences. He had a great dynamic with the Atlanteans. He had a good sense of humor and personality. Like, there were some little quirky moments with him talking to some of the other characters that I liked, and yeah, his personality was really well done, I thought. And I would love to see more Aquaman directed by Zack Snyder. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but it was very cool. And his role in the film was awesome. Yeah. Flash, another character who had humor that I enjoyed, because 2017 they gave everybody humor and made everybody the comic relief, which didn't work. But in this instance, Flash is the main comic relief. But he also has his own hero's journey. You know, he's not just comedy. He has a very significant purpose in the film. And there's a lot going on with him, honestly. He had some really cool stuff with Iris, with his dad, with the Speed Force, with you know, I think a lot of people who've been following the movie know that he has there's something pretty crazy that he does at the end of the movie, and that was indeed pretty cool and crazy. Yeah, Flash was done really well, and his personality, his humor, I enjoyed a lot. Like, he felt like he was just always moving. Like, his mouth was always moving, his hands were always moving. He always had energy, right? And that's what he was saying. Like, he burns so many calories, he always has to be eating food, so he always is just sort of on the move. Like, it's almost like he can't contain himself. That's why, you know, when he runs, it's never just a, you know, it's always like, because for one, he's tapping into the Speed Force. He's literally like wielding this energy, but also he just has so much energy that he needs to let out, and I think he has a lot of emotion that he needs to let out, and so yeah, his personality worked really well for me. I liked it a lot. Last but not least, Cyborg. Cyborg was what they said he'd be. He was the heart of the film. Ray Fisher killed it. And he was also being truthful when he said that pretty much every scene of his in 2017 was reshoots. I mean, there was so much new stuff with Cyborg. More new stuff than with any of the other characters, I'm pretty sure. Like, he was the emotional backbone of this film. You know, he appeared in many different ways throughout the film. His relationship with his father was very pivotal. His backstory was heartbreaking. His whole journey was probably the best part of the movie, or the best like arc of the movie, in my opinion. So Cyborg was great. In terms of the other characters, I guess I'll touch on Steppenwolf real quick. Great villain, great animation, great design. He was tough. He was brutal. He was a force to be reckoned with. Like, seeing him in action was like, okay, this is a real intimidating threat. Like, he did not feel like just some generic CGI alien villain. He felt like, okay, I if I saw this dude anywhere in my city, I'd be terrified. But then at the same time, he became vulnerable whenever he spoke to Desaad or Darkseid, because he knew that he was sort of like this disgraced member of Apocalypse, and he had to redeem himself for something that happened in the past. and he also, like, it just sort of establishes this hierarchy where Desaad and Darkseid are more powerful than Steppenwolf, which is like, wow, okay, if the main villain, the guy wreaking havoc for this 4-hour movie, is on the lower tier of this spectrum, like, imagine how powerful Darkseid is if it takes the whole Justice League and everybody to stop Steppenwolf. I mean, imagine how powerful Darkseid is. And Darkseid as a character, I wish we got to see even more of him, but the parts we did see of him, man, epic. Absolutely epic. Absolutely epic. I hope we get to see him in New Gods, and of course I hope they make a Justice League 2 and we get to see him there. But yeah, Darkseid was something else, man. So Darkseid and Steppenwolf is a great segue into world building. They come from the world of Apocalypse, right? Wonder Woman comes from the world of Themyscira. Aquaman comes from Atlantis. Superman comes from Krypton. Batman, Flash, and Cyborg come from Earth. However, Cyborg also has the interface, his whole body and mind has sort of been impacted by the apocalyptic technology. So there's all these different worlds. There's all these different realms of reality. There's all these different places and peoples and different environments and different, like, I mean, there's the world building. What I'm getting at here is that it was done very well. And if it seems like, by the way, I'm just going through this review saying only positive things, yes, I am a Zack Snyder fan. I'm a DC fan. I love these movies. So I'm giving you my honest thoughts. Like, I'm not just trying to promote this movie and only say good things about it. If I spent 4 years fighting for the Snyder Cut and then the Snyder Cut wasn't good, I would tell you it wasn't good, okay? I mean, obviously I think good is completely subjective and you might think it's good while I think it's bad, or vice versa. But if I didn't enjoy what I saw, I would tell you that. All right, I promise. Also, there might be more I learn after more viewings. I might find more things I love, more things I don't love. But as of right now, as of having watched it once and rewatched several key scenes, I do enjoy most aspects of this film. I will get into one criticism towards the end of the video. But anyways, as for the world building, it was executed fantastically. Sean O'Connell, the guy who wrote the Release the Snyder Cut book, put it very well. He said that this world feels rich, feels like a world you could live in. It's very fully developed. It's just all the different corners of the DC universe coming together. It's cool. It's cool. Yeah, I mean, and then even the Warriors from the Stars, which I won't touch on who or what that is, but that's explored a little bit too. Not a ton, but a little bit. And so I think I said this in an episode of Keeping It Keelan recently. It feels cool when a fictional world looks and feels like something you can really be immersed in. Like, you could be there. Like, okay, this is Metropolis, this is Gotham, this is Themyscira, this is Apocalypse. Like, this is a place I could go. It doesn't just feel like, it doesn't feel fictional in a sense. When you're watching it, it feels so real. And I mean, that's the definition of what world building should be, right? Like, it should feel like there's this fully developed world. I'm literally just explaining what world building is at this point, but it was done very well, and I loved it. So I think, in my personal opinion, the sound mixing on this movie is the best of Snyder's DC films. When there's not much music occurring and you're just experiencing the sounds of the environment, man, I don't even know how to describe it. There's just a certain something to the sound. I mean, if you watch the movie, let me know what you think, how you would describe this. But I found myself at several points last night being aware of how rich the sound was, the background sound. It felt so like this, like if you just stripped away the dialogue, like I would just enjoy listening to that sound. It was so, yeah, it was really good. And then as for the actual music, the score by Tom Hulkenberg, which I think is 54 tracks, he killed it, man. I mean, he did a great job with this score, with this music. I mean, the specific themes for the heroes, the overall action music in the background during fight scenes, the emotional music during emotional scenes. And then I'm not sure how much of a role he had in selecting these, or if Zack just selected them, but the songs that had lyrics were done really well and placed really well. And there were more of those than I expected there to be, but I like that. I mean, in a 4-hour movie, it's cool to have a few songs with lyrics. So yeah, I mean, I thought that was great. I thought the sound mixing was great. The score was great. Song selection was great. It was great. So now let's address one of the craziest aspects of this film, and that is the fact that it is 4 hours long. 4 hours. That is the longest superhero movie ever made, to my knowledge, at least professionally, by a studio. I'm sure there's people who have made their own superhero movies that are longer, but 4 hours, man, that is a lot of time to fill, but it didn't feel like it dragged at any point. I mean, the people I watched it with, my parents and girlfriend, they said that there was really never a dull moment. Like, there was not a point in the movie that I would have taken out, personally. In fact, I don't feel like the story could have been complete if you had taken out any of the moments. And hence why the 2017 movie felt so incomplete. I mean, I could definitely see you making a maybe 3-hour cut of the movie if you just trim down the scenes. But to remove any elements of this story definitely just changes a lot. And so the 4-hour runtime was great. It felt very complete. The fact that it's split up into 6 chapters plus an epilogue makes it great for people who don't want to commit to a 4-hour sitting. And it makes it great for fans like me who, of course, I'll watch all 4 hours, but sometimes I might just go back and rewatch chapter 5 or chapter 3 or just rewatch the epilogue, you know? Like, it's almost like you have these 7 episodes to choose from, and whichever one's your favorite, you can just watch it again. Like, I can, you know, and I think HBO Max will have sort of a selection guide. Like, you can say, okay, go to chapter 5. And that's kind of cool. Like, if I'm just in the mood for 40 minutes of DC awesomeness, then boom, chapter 5. I'm just saying chapter 5 as an example. Chapter 5 is not necessarily the best chapter. I'm just saying. But that's kind of a cool format. And this isn't really much of a spoiler. This is just a super minor detail. They actually put the chapter names in the movie, which I did not expect them to do that. I even was talking to my mom, and I'm like, she was wondering if they're going to do that, and I'm like, nah, I don't think they will. Nah, but they did, and it worked actually. Like, they served as really cool transitions throughout the movie. So I like that. And I think my dad was saying, like, this kind of paves the way for a whole new format, you know, of streaming movies. Like, you know, allowing directors to create really long movies and not necessarily having to split them up into series, because I think that generally the studios probably right now, their mindset is either you make a 2-hour superhero movie or you make a 6-hour superhero series. That seems to be like the Disney Plus model right now for Marvel. Is like WandaVision is a 5 or 6 hour movie, but it's you know, it's sort of a 5 to 6 hour movie if you watch it in one sitting, but it's of course split up into episodes, and that's the format of that. It was written to be episodes, whereas this was written to be a film. So, I mean, people will absolutely sit down and watch, you know, they'll binge a 6 or 7 episode show, you know, so why would they not watch a 6 or 7 chapter movie? Like, I think that it's all in how you market it and it's all in how you frame it, but I think that it definitely, a lot of opportunities and possibilities arise from this sort of long form format. And I wouldn't be surprised if Justice League 2 is confirmed, if it's a straight to HBO Max thing, you know? If it's another 4-hour movie, because Zack Snyder loves making long movies, and I'm sure a lot of directors would love to, you know, make long movies if given that freedom. And so that's really, really cool. All right, so this section of the video is called surprises. Don't worry, I'm not going to spoil any of them. But what I am going to say is that if you are expecting a bunch of surprises in this movie, and you have been a fan of the Snyder Cut for a long time, don't expect too many. Like, I sort of went into it thinking it's going to meet all my expectations, and then it's going to give me something I didn't even possibly imagine. And unfortunately, I didn't get that next thing because I've been following this film for so long and so intimately that I have seen every single picture Zack has posted. You know, I have rewatched the trailers so many times. I have read every article, every interview. Like, since I'm so obsessed with this phenomenon of the Snyder Cut, I knew a lot of what to expect. And I think a lot of Zack Snyder's fans, and maybe even a lot of just DC fans in general, will know what to expect, right? We have seen variations of lots of these scenes in the theatrical cut. I wish we hadn't, but we have. You know, a lot of the characters that it had this movie released in 2017, like this movie, you know, Darkseid might have been a surprise. The ending, a lot of the ending might have been a complete surprise. Some of the cameos might have been a complete surprise. But because of the fact that there were years where Zack Snyder didn't think this movie would ever come out, and so he revealed some stuff, like, because of that, there's not that many surprises left for the diehard fans. Now, if you are a casual fan, if you are just somebody looking for a good movie, you are in for a treat. Like, there will be so many surprises. but if you've been following it as intimately as I have and reading Snyder Cut news every day or every week, then there won't be that many surprises. But that's okay, because what's super cool is seeing all these different scenes that have been teased and shown in different places and shared by Zack and mentioned by the cast and crew, like seeing it all come together and realizing, oh my God, like this thing really exists. That in itself is the coolest thing. It's not a surprise, but it's cool and it's rewarding and it's awesome. And I will say, lastly, there is one surprise I was really hoping for that did not come. And if you know me, and you know my favorite aspect of DC Comics, you know what that was. And it did not come, which is unfortunate, but things are looking optimistic for that realm of DC Comics in the future, to be explored in other mediums like film and streaming and all that. And this film, Zack Snyder's Justice League, did touch on it. It didn't include it to the level I wanted it, but it touched on it. And look, this movie can't satisfy everybody. There's going to be so many fans of different superheroes who are like, you know, I'm sure there's people out there like, why wasn't Hawkgirl in this, you know? And so it can't satisfy everybody. And it did a great job with the heroes it included. And this film, Zack Snyder's Justice League, I will always, always remember it. And I will always rewatch it. And I will always talk about the crazy journey that it took to get this film released and how proud I am to be a part of it. So thank you all. Thank you for watching my review of Zack Snyder's Justice League. I will be doing another video discussing some spoilers for the movie, which I'll upload after the movie officially releases. And yeah, I hope that everybody enjoyed this movie. Hope that everybody enjoyed this review. Hope everybody enjoys the movie. And yeah, share this with people who may not know much about the movie. Check out my documentary for sure. And subscribe if you are interested in more content relating to the Snyder Cut or pop culture or mental health or travel or my own films. I have it all right here on Keelan Morrissey's channel. Thank you all for watching. Peace out.